Hi guys, today I'm going to go over VPN connections in the cloud. So AWS has their VPN service. So how would you connect that to your on-prem data center? And this is really the more cost-effective solution for most companies over Direct Connect. So this is kind of like bargain, or at least as a backup to Direct Connect. So I'm going to go over setting up a VPN connection, and you don't have to have any hardware or anything in your on-prem data center or at home. We're going to do this completely through a simulated environment. So we'll be using OpenSWAN VPN software, and we're going to be connecting it to our AWS VPN and client-side gateway, as well as your VPN that you're running in your AWS cloud environment. So this is really a very useful skill to know, because most times people are running a hybrid environment. It's not just all in the cloud or all on-prem. You're really running this mix. So having this kind of VPN direct connection to your AWS VPCs, your networking in AWS, is really valuable. So let's go ahead and get started and take a look at what this means. Just a quick heads up before we start, this is a little bit long video. Sorry, I couldn't help it, guys. There's just a lot of steps to this, but stick with it. It's totally a valuable skill to know. The first thing we're going to do is go into our AWS VPC, and we're going to do some subnetting. We're going to create our VPC and some subnets and some route tables, attach an inner gateway, and we're going to be doing this a couple times to set up our environment. So we're going to do it on the AWS side, and then we're going to create our kind of fake data center that's theoretically off-prem, but we're just doing it in AWS. But they would be the exact same steps, using a second VPC in a different region, and then going ahead and setting up OpenSWAN VPC in that region and connect back to another VPC with the VPN connection in a whole other region. So we're going to first set up the networking to do our VPC. So it's just VPC 1, and it's the same CIDR range we've been working with, 10.1.0.0/16. I have two subnets, a public subnet and a private subnet, an internet gateway to connect to the public subnet, and I have my route tables set up accordingly to allow that sort of network traffic. Now in Mumbai, I'm going to set up a similar environment. I'm going to create a VPC, and I want to create two subnets. So I'm going to have VPC. I'm going to have VPC2. The CIDR range is going to be 10.2.0.0/16, and you can leave the rest of it default. And I'm going to create my VPC. Now I want to create two subnets. So the same idea, public subnet and private subnet. So go down to subnets, create. I'm just going to do the same naming convention I did in Northern California. So I'm just looking up the naming convention to be consistent. So I'm going to set up a VPC2 private subnet. I want to make sure I select the correct VPC, and then the CIDR range for private subnet, 10.2.2.0/24. For your availability zone, I'm checking the first one, A1, and then I just want to specifically make sure my subnets are in different availability zones. I'm just trying to ensure that. So in the second subnet is my public subnet, VPC2 public. Make sure you select the correct VPC. I'm selecting a different AZ, and then my CIDR range for this is 10.2.1.0/24. We do have a public subnet. Remember, we need to set up our routing tables and also create an internet gateway. So if you take a look at our routing tables, you kind of see that, maybe something is missing here. So our routing tables, you want to make sure you have two. One for the public subnet, one for the private subnets. So here is one routing table created, and it's associated with the public subnet. So that way you kind of know
how to name it. Route table VPC2 public. And now I want to create a second route table for our private subnets. And you want to make sure you associate the private subnet with the private subnet route table. Once they're associated correctly, you want to take a look at the routes. So 0.0.0/0 goes across the Internet Gateway. I haven't created one. So let me go back and go to Internet Gateway and create my Internet Gateway. Now I want to attach that to my VPC2. And then now I can go back to my route table for my public subnet and add a route out to the internet. I'm going to click edit, I'm going to click add, and now I could put 0.0.0.0/0 for all traffic that is not part of the local target destination. Now for internet gateways, my internet gateway should appear as an option. And I could click create and close. So now my VPC is done in Mumbai. Right, so I'm in whole other region. I created my VPC, similar setup, public, private VPC. Now I want to launch a few EC2 instances. The one in Mumbai, remember, is going to simulate our on-premise VPN device or software. And this is this device to set up a VPN connection. So in this case, it's a software simulation. So I'm using Amazon Linux 2. Windows Server is not an option here. So make sure you select Amazon Linux 2. I'm selecting the VPC. I'm going to put it in the public subnet. I want to make sure I get a public IP address. And the rest I'm going to select as default. I'm going to give it a target. A tag. The product we're installing is called OpenSWAN. So that's why I'm calling it service is OpenSWAN. And location is supposed to simulate our on-prem data center in Mumbai. Now, right now I'm selecting just port 22. We're going to come back and change the security groups later because it actually has to have a lot more ports open than just SSH. So for right now, I'm just selecting port 22. Remember, security keys, your public key and private key do not cross regions. So our region, other regions had private keys that we could reuse, but this one did not. So Mumbai, I don't have any keys that work in Mumbai, so I have to create a new one for Mumbai specifically. Now, I got an error here because T2.micros are not available in the availability zone I selected in Mumbai. They actually ran out of T3 micros in the specific AZ that I assigned for my public subnet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a second public subnet. So I'm going to create a new subnet, VPC2. I'm just going to public 2. Make sure I select VPC2. Now in this case, I'm selecting a different one. I'm actually selecting 1A here. And then the CIDR range, I'm going to change it to 10.2.3.0. So it just doesn't conflict. The CIDR ranges in your subnet should not conflict with each other. Okay, so now I have 2 public subnets and 1 private subnet. Of course, if you set this up and your public subnet isn't an easy with t2.micros instances available, you don't have to do this step. It's perfectly fine. In just my case, when I did this, this is because there's no way in advance that you can know if a instance is not available. So now I'm just going here, I'm making sure the route table looks correct. Since we have a route table that would apply to all public instances, I could just associate another subnet, the 2 public subnets, to the same route table. So now 2 public subnets are assigned to the same route table. So now if we go back to our EC2 instances and try to create that again. So here, if you refresh it, and then select the public 2 subnets, and then we go ahead and add secure our tags, our security group, then we create our key pair, we download our key for Mumbai, and now it's created. So the second AZ we selected does have the instances we wanted available in their data centers. Now I'm just going to name my EC2 instance OpenSWAN VPN on-prem. Once this is up, we're going to SSH in and we're going to install the OpenSWAN software. There's some very specific configuration files for OpenSWAN that you should be very careful when you're working with. So here we're going to create, in Northern California, we're also going to create an instance before we log into our Mumbai OpenSWAN server. In this one, it should be in the public subnet as well. And VPC1, we need a public IP address. The default volume size is fine. I'm going to go ahead and add a tag. So this is going to be used to test our VPN connection. And here too, we're also going to change the security group shortly to open up a lot more ports between both networks. So you don't, in our example, we don't necessarily want to block our on-prem and our cloud network. We want them fully to be able to communicate to each other over TCP and UDP connections. So I'm going to download another private key, right? This is good for Northern California. And then we're going to look at our instances. It should be up in a minute. Now back in Mumbai, our server is up. In Northern California, we're still waiting for our instance to come up. So while we're waiting, why don't we go ahead and modify our security group? I want to open up everything between port 0 and that is 65535, so 65,535. So all ports, all TCP ports coming from, notice that CIDR range, that is our public subnet on VPC1. So all traffic coming from our Northern California VPC, AWS VPC network. Now we're going to do the opposite on the Northern California side. So we're going to do the same, open up our security group, open up all ports for TCP and UDP, but now we want it go to the CIDR range for the Mumbai on-prem network, simulated on-prem network. So here's our security group, and we're going to select TCP and UDP. Between 0, 65,535, and we're going to select the CIDR range. There's a typo here. So select the CIDR range 10.1 2.0.0/16. I'm going to select that for both the UDP and TCP traffic. Make sure to give it a description and then click create. So now that our Northern California instance is up and our Mumbai instance is up, we're going to log into Mumbai EC2 instance and we're going to set up our OpenSWAN. So we got our IP address, EC2 instance. We're going to use our private key for our Mumbai region. Click OK, and it should log us right in. Here we're going to install OpenSWAN. So as root, we're going to do a sudo su hyphen, so that switches us into root or admin account. We're going to do a yum install OpenSWAN. So this is the AWS packet manager. Once that's installed, make sure you click yes to install. And now we're going to have to configure it. So a few things we have to do. I'm using VI here. I'm still root. You could use Nano instead of VI as an editor. You do not have to use VI or Vim to edit files if that is easier for you. So I'm going to do edit the file /etc/ipsec.conf. And this is just to make sure that there is one very specific line that's not commented out. See all those pound symbols? Those means all those lines are commented out, so they're like just comments and information. They're not actually part of the configuration file. So that last line, that include line needs to be uncommented. By default, it should be. I'd be surprised if you see that commented out. So next, we're going to edit another file, this time using Nano. And I'm going to do a Nano on etc/etc/syscontrol, sysctl.conf. And this is going to control the network device. We're going to open up some of the controls for the actual network card to allow network forwarding. So if something is like a VPN, it has to be able to accept traffic and forward it on. So this is essentially allowing that. So once that's done, and these configuration lines will be in a PDF with the assignment. We're going to restart the networking. So service network restart. It's essentially restarting the networking service on the computer. So now we're in Northern California. And we're going to set up our site-to-site VPN. The first thing you need to do is create a virtual private gateway. I'm going to name it VPC1-VPC2 and then virtual private gateway VPGW. So once that's created, next we can go on and create the customer gateway. So customer gateway and then create. And this is where we're going to specify the IP address for our customer gateway device or software application. So I'm just going to call it VPC2 customer gateway. And in Mumbai, you could click on that EC2 instance and look for its public IP address. So here I am, Mumbai EC2 instance, and it's 13.230.138.165. Your IP address, of course, will be different. The rest of it leave as default and click close. Create and close. So that right away is available. So now you have your virtual private gateway, your customer gateway. Now we're ready to actually create the action. We need to attach your virtual private gateway to a VPC. So I'm going to attach it to VPC1 and click yes. It should take a couple minutes to actually come up and say attach. Make sure you wait before continuing. Once it says attach, now you can create your site-to-site VPN connection. I'm just going to call it VPC1, VPC2, VPN connection. I'm going to select my virtual private gateway. Then I can go down and select my customer gateway. And then for the route options, I'm going to select static, and I'm going to specify the subnet for the VPN. I'm sorry, the VPC that exists on the Mumbai VPC region. So the on-premise networking CIDR range is what you need to put there. So this part does take a long time. Be very patient with this VPN connection. I would say it took a good like 10-15 minutes for this to come back. I have seen it set up much faster than that, but again, be patient and wait for it. While we're waiting for the site-to-site VPN connection to become available, we're going to go in and propagate the route for the router. So in Northern California, for your public subnet, make sure you go in and edit where it says route propagation, and make sure the check bar is checked to allow the route information to be propagated. So now let's go back and see how our site-to-site VPN connection is doing. It still says pending. Again, be patient. It will come back as available within a few minutes. You can double check if you're having problems with this. Check your security groups. Make sure you have all the ports open and your subnet prefix is correct. So eventually it does come back, and you kind of see here I deleted one as well, so I created a second one. But if you just follow the example shown here, yours will come back as available. So now it does have the tunneling down, so that means the customer side of the customer gateway is not configured correctly. So we actually have to go in and configure our EC2 instance for the customer gateway. So we're going to go here and I'm going to download this configuration file from our site-to-site VPN. And this file will have some IP address information that we're going to use when configuring our OpenSWAN VPN application. So I'm just going to open up this text file with the generic VPN connection information. Some things to look at specifically: this pre-shared key. We're going to be using that string. It's the way it's going to authenticate between the private gateway and the customer gateway. And then we're going to use these IP addresses, the customer gateway and the virtual private gateway IP address. So make sure you keep that information handy. So here I am logged in into my EC2 instance in Mumbai. I have OpenSWAN open, and now I'm going to configure some files. When you're working with these files, be very, very careful not to edit them incorrectly. That will cause an issue. So we're going to cd into etc/ipsec.d. There's currently no files. We're going to create two files in here. We're going to create a file called aws-vpn.conf and aws-vpn.secrets. These files will have the configuration information for OpenSWAN to able to connect to our AWS site-to-site VPN. So again, I'm going to use VI here. Notice I'm logged in as root. Okay, make sure to do this with an admin account, the root admin. I'm going to use VI. You can use nano if you want. And in that directory, I'm going to create that file called aws-vpn.conf. The file, the text here, I'm going to give you, but you will have to change the IP address specific to what your setup has. So what is your Mumbai or whatever region, alternate region you select, EC2 instance that's running SWAN. So you can pull that from the configuration files. So really what you have to pay attention to is 4 lines here: left ID, right, left subnet, right subnet. So I'm getting this information from the file downloaded. So here are two files I have created, and I'm going to show you the content of them. So AWS-VPN has our configuration, VPN configuration, and notice these 4 IP addresses here, right? The IP address for our customer gateway. Notice how it matches up with our file we downloaded with for our start to site VPN configuration that we downloaded. So it matches up with the customer gateway, the left ID, the right matches up with the virtual private gateway. Now the subnet, left subnet and right subnet CIDR ranges we should know because we set them up, right? Now the AWS -VPN.secrets has that shared key. So notice again, it's the IP address for the customer gateway, the IP address for the virtual private gateway, then colon, PSK, and then in quotation marks, right? It has to appear in quotation marks, the string, the shared key string. I'm going to paste that in there, and that what makes up that file. Now you make sure this is all correct. If this is not correct, delete everything in this directory, this ipsec.d directory. Delete all the files with rm, all the files that are created, not just the ones, these two, and redo it. If you don't delete all the files, it will consistently fail on you. So now to do to check if it works, you can do a restart. Service IP sec restart, and here I tail the log file to just look at the system logs. So you kind of see here service IP sec restart and then colon tail -f and then var log messages. Now if everything works correctly, you should be able to do a service IPsec status to see if it's up and running. You should see that green active running to make sure everything's working correctly. If that works correctly, within a few minutes, not immediately, wait a few minutes for your tunnel 1 to become status up. If that is up, now you should be able to SSH between your Northern California instance and your Mumbai instance, but now you can actually access it through the private IP address, not the public IP address. So if you log in here and you SSH into your Northern California instance, and now you should be able to SSH in to your Mumbai instance. Now you're going to need that key. So make sure you have that key in your Northern California instance, your Mumbai private key to SSH. So I'm just going to drag that file in. I'm going to do that change mod on the file permission to make sure only the owner can read it. Change mod 400, VPN demo Mumbai. And then I'm going to do SSH -I and the private key name, EC2-user, and now the IP address of the EC2 instance, but the private IP address. If everything works correctly, I should be able to get my prompt back. So it shows I can connect between the regions across the VPN connection using IPsec. If you just want to verify that you're on the Mumbai instance, you can actually go in and check those files in etc ipsec.d to see the files that you have been working with to get this connection up and running.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.